Hi everyone, thanks for joining me again. I think that a really important step for every photographer to take is to look back and self-critique their own work. So in this video, I'm going to look back at 5 recent images and critique them. Talk about what I like, what I don't like, and indeed whether the image actually even worked at all. Okay, so at the end of this video, I'm going to put in a little video sequence which has got absolutely nothing to do with landscape photography. But in my last video, I mentioned we're still kind of in the holiday season at the moment. Still things going on here. We got Three Kings Day coming up soon, which is a big event here in Spain, bigger than Christmas. So what I thought I'd do is just put together a little video sequence that I did. I managed to get a vantage point to film some of the Three Kings Day parade, and I thought it might be fun to just tack it on at the end. As I said, it's got nothing to do with landscape photography, so if it's of no interest to you, then feel free to skip it. But first, I think that self-critiquing your own work is a really important action for every photographer to take, particularly I think for landscape photography. I think that going back and looking at what you did, what you like about an image, what you don't like about it, maybe even completely re-evaluating whether that image has worked at all, is an important step, because it helps us to grow, it helps us to make different decisions in post-processing but also out in the field. Of course, if it's a post-processing change, you can go back and fix it later, but if you've done something wrong in the field and you've come away, it's too late. That image is fixed. So what I'm going to do is look at 5 images from my recent videos, and the reason I've chosen to do that is because of the Christmas and New Year period. My videos have been coming out rather more quickly than they normally would. Normally there'd be a week, maybe even a bit longer, between me actually going out and doing a photo shoot and the video being published. So it gives me a chance to leave the images to, I like to say, they rest or they bake for a little while, and then I go back and look at them and decide whether I really like them or not, and if anything needs changing. But because I've been putting the videos out very quickly after shooting the images, they haven't really had a chance to do that. So I'm going to go back and look at, as I said, 5 images from 3 different videos. And we're going to start with a video I shot at Elche Dam. And I'll put a link to the video up here. Now I actually took 2 images on this video, and this is the first one. So let's have a look at it on the computer. Okay, so this is the image. And generally speaking, I like this image. I think it's got some nice mood and atmosphere to it. I think the composition works well with that wall sweeping around from one side. The sort of the highlight area of the water flowing down across the dam and down on the cascades is kind of sitting to the center, but on the 1/3 line, if you like. The sky is quite interesting in terms of pattern. We got a little bit of a sun star there. Not as nice as I would have liked, but the conditions meant I wasn't going to get a perfect sun star. There was a bit too much haze. Originally, when I shot this, there was more on the bottom of the image, so kind of down here. There was actually a path leading down with a fence on it, and originally I thought that was going to form part of the composition, but when I looked at it afterwards, I felt it was a distraction, so I cropped this down to a 16:9 and removed that foreground completely. The colours in this are fairly subtle and muted, which I think suits the scene. It wasn't a brilliant colourful sunset. In fact, it wasn't even really sunset at all, because the sun's disappearing behind the mountains. It's still got probably half an hour or so before official sunset. So broadly speaking, I like this image, and I'd be happy to hang this on my wall if I had any room, which I haven't at the moment, but maybe at some point in the future. But It's not completely to my satisfaction, and there is basically one area that I messed up. I could have done something different in the field. I can't do anything about it now. And if I actually go in and look at this bottom left hand corner of the scene here at 100%, what you can see is the tops of these bushes are blowing around in the wind, and therefore they've gone blurry. Because this was a long exposure, I had a 6-stop ND filter in to get a longer exposure. Most of the rest of the scene isn't a problem. There's a little bit of blurring maybe in some of the bushes up here, but obviously the main features are lovely and sharp. No problems with sharpness on the main features at all. But just that one area down there is a little bit blurry. I don't think it makes a tremendous amount of difference to the image, and it's still a nice image. But what I do think is I could have done something with it in the field. What I could have done is very quickly whipped out the 6-stop ND filter and bumped the ISO up and taken a shot at maybe 1/100th of a second, something like that, which would enable me to get that area nice and sharp, and then I could have merged those in Photoshop and I would have avoided that blurriness in there. So it's a minor detail, but I think it's just one of those things that means the image is perhaps not quite 100% the way I would like it, but it's a lesson learned. For the second image, again, it was from the same video and the same location, but I waited until after sunset to get this particular shot. I'd moved down much closer to the dam. I was actually right at the side of the dam on a little ledge, shooting across the falling water, and I took a number of shots here as the light started to drop, and they ranged from around 5-second exposure up to this one, which was 20 seconds. And I must admit, I thought at the time that a 20-second exposure was going to be too much, was going to take too much detail out of the water. But when I looked at it later in Lightroom, I actually felt the 20-second one was the best, both in terms of the water, but also in terms of the effect on the sky. Now, when I shot this image, it was well after sunset. I think it was a good 20, maybe even 25 minutes after sunset. And we didn't have a massively colourful sunset. I was in shadow anyway. So this scene actually looked quite blue when I first put it into Lightroom. So I have warmed this scene up. I used a combination of white balance and split toning to warm it up a bit. And I also cropped it in a little bit from the original composition, just to remove a couple of distracting elements which were over on the left hand side of the frame, both at the top edge, so in other words the bottom of the sky, and also in the bottom left hand corner. But I only cropped it in by a small amount. And the other thing I did was I did just a little bit of dodging on the water just to make it pop a little bit more. So in terms of the actual composition, I probably could have got it a bit more accurate in camera probably just by zooming in a fraction. But if I'm honest, I don't think cropping it down a little bit like that really makes a lot of difference. I love the composition, I like the tones, I like the effect. The sky is got an interesting kind of dynamic to it. I like this image. I don't think I would do anything different with this one in the same conditions in the field. So I'm happy with it, nothing to change. Okay, so now let's take a look at an image that I shot, which I almost didn't get. I'll put a link to the video up here, but if you watch this one, this image, which I'm putting up now, was shot around sunset, but I started out in a completely different location, so I almost didn't come here. And even when I did get here, there were certain things that I thought was going to get in the way of actually taking the image. But fortunately, things came together and I managed to get this shot. It didn't come out exactly the way I intended, and that's because I'd originally intended that the waves in the foreground wouldn't have been quite so far across the scene. And I did have some shots where the waves weren't quite as far across, but it was one of those things. I took several shots, as I always do when I'm trying to capture waves breaking, and I actually think this one looked the best, even though it didn't quite match up with what I thought it was going to be like. In terms of the composition of the image, in terms of the light on the image, I'm delighted with it. I love this image. I think the waves have come out really nicely. I've got the exposure time, I think, pretty much perfect to capture texture in the waves but still make them look a bit fluffy and smooth. There's some beautiful light on the hill, which actually disappeared very, very quickly after I took this shot. And we've even managed to get a little bit of sort of purpley pinkish tones in the clouds up in the sky there. So this, I think, was a successful shot for me. Would I do anything different on this one if I was shooting it again? Probably not. It works. I'm happy with this one. So that's another image that I'm happy with. Okay, so on to the next photo shoot and the next video. The video link is up here again. And on this one, I really had a very short space of time. I did the shoot in the morning, and I had to have the video finished and uploaded and ready to go in the evening because I was out all of the following day and the video was coming out that evening. And that was Saturday's video. This was one where I went out not really expecting great things. The weather forecast said we were going to get completely clear skies, which is never ideal. And I went out to shoot a particular subject, only to discover that in the 2 years or more since I'd been to that particular location, that subject had changed completely. So I ended up sort of rushing around trying to salvage the morning. And I took 2 shots. Now, the first shot I took was one that I honestly didn't think was going to work. And it's this one. And this is not the kind of image I would normally be shooting. I'm not normally a fan of silhouettes in my own work. I've seen other people do it very, very well, but for me it doesn't normally work. But in this one, I actually really like this, and I didn't expect to. I thought this was going to be a kind of a blur image, but I actually really like it. I had to open up the aperture to about f7.1, and I had to bump the ISO up in order to get all of the edges of the palm trees nice and sharp because they were blowing around in the wind. So I worked out that about a 40th of a second exposure would just about be enough to take that blur, that movement blur out. Compositionally, I was struggling to fit the palm trees in without distractions coming in from the side, and I also wanted to make sure that I had that crescent moon and the little dot of Venus in there, and I wanted them on that side because I wanted that progression. If you look, the tree tops of the trees slope from the left hand side up, and then sort of almost point up. That slope almost points up to the moon and then up to the little tiny dot of Venus up there. My initial thoughts when I was composing this was to get very low down and actually bring the bottoms of the trees right up to the horizon line, so there would have been almost no sea in there. And the reason I didn't do it was because if I did that, then I couldn't fit in the crescent moon and the little dot of Venus. But actually, I'm really glad that I didn't do that, because I think having that little bit of sea in there just provides a bit of context to the scene. It shows that we've got, a beach or some land, the trees, and then that sort of nicely toned sea further out. It's an image that surprised me. I thought it was going to be okay. Sure, it's a bit kind of postcardy or chocolate boxy or whatever you want to call it. It's not fine art, but it's a nice image and I like it. Would I do anything different on this one? No, don't think I would. I like it the way it is. So, I've done quite well out of these ones so far. However, let's move on to my final image for critiquing. Okay, so this was the image that I shot after I'd done that shot of the palm trees on that morning. And I think I said in the video that I was getting a bit desperate. I was clutching at straws, is the terms I used. And I came up with this idea to shoot long focal length and put Benidorm Island, or Peacock Island as it's properly known, out on the horizon. There was a little bit of nice sort of orangey cloud behind it. I took one shot, focused on the island, and then I focused in sort of more to the foreground, although foreground's relative, it was a 200mm lens, so it's not that close, but focused in on the sort of the foreground part of the scene, and then I was waiting for waves to break so that I could try and capture some waves as the foreground element. And this was the resulting image, which I shared in the video. I shared it in that video, and I'm sharing it again in this video, but that's the only place it's going to be shared. I've decided I really just don't like this image. I think there's a number of reasons why. I think Benidorm Island, or Peacock Island, just isn't interesting enough for me. It's always a bit of a tricky one to shoot anyway, because from this side it's just a dome shape. It doesn't have a lot of interesting detail on it, and because it's actually quite a distance away from where I'm shooting, the atmospherics have kind of got in the way, and the island actually isn't as sharp as I would like. It's not out of focus, but it's just a bit flat because of the atmospherics. And the waves, although they're quite nice and quite interesting, I just don't really feel that it does anything for me. The more I look at it, the more I hate it, actually. What would I do differently? Well, I would have found a completely different composition, or, to be honest, given where I was and the conditions that I had, what I probably should have done is just left the camera alone and just maybe sat on the beach and watched the sun come up and enjoyed it. And then maybe I would have carried the video on by doing the post-processing on the palm trees or something else, I don't know. Okay, so that's it. That's my 5 images reviewed. 4 out of 5 is pretty good, and in fact 3 out of 5 being images that I'm really pleased with. I'm actually quite lucky that I've managed to do that. Quite often I will find that those images that I am absolutely really pleased with only come out around, maybe once a month or something. So to have 3 in such a short space of time, I'm pretty happy with. But that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this little view into my mind as I look back at some of my images. And don't forget to just hang on for a few minutes if you're interested in seeing, I think it's about 1.5 minutes or just over 1.5 minutes, little compilation video of the Three Kings Parade that took place here in El Campello on Saturday evening. This is Wednesday, it was on Saturday evening. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, which will be coming up right at the end of the video, but there is already one down below. And don't forget about likes and shares if you feel so inclined. And of course, I'd love to hear from you, so the comments go down below. I'm going to sign off now, and then I'll introduce the Three Kings segment. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Thank you very much as always, and until the next video, bye. Traditionally, you might expect the Three Kings to arrive by camel or horse or maybe donkey or even on foot. But as El Campello is a town with such strong links to the sea, the Three Kings arrive in a way that's slightly different to normal tradition.
Thank you.